I'd like to welcome everyone to this DVD on the Queen's Indian. Now, this is a very, very interesting opening in my opinion. When I'm playing with the white pieces, I am always excited when I get a chance to play this opening with white. Now, you may ask, why is that, Simon? Why is that the case? Well, I find this is a very exciting opening, very interesting opening, and it combines a lot of positional but tactical ideas. And in most cases, white always gains a very dangerous attack initiative, which is not always the case when you play 1d4. There's lots of systems that black can play himself against 1d4, where white in some cases even has to defend, like against the Benko, even against the King's Indian defence. But in this DVD, this opening I'm going to show you, you're going to get very interesting games, and you're going to get the initiative. This is one thing I've tried to make clear, that we're going to try to give you with the white pieces the initiative. We're going to try to give you with the white pieces chances to attack your opponent, to place your opponent under pressure from a very early stage. And I think that's a key thing. The more pressure you put on your opponent, the more likely he is to crack. Now, this DVD is aimed really from the white perspective in the Queen's Indian. So we are going to look at it mainly from the white positioning, but it's also obviously going to be helpful for people who play the Nimzo, etc., with the black pieces. Now, this, if you are a Nimzo player, hopefully this DVD will inspire you to not play free knight to c3, but instead to play free knight to f3. And that's one of the ideas. I want, this is a great system to play, and it avoids all the Nimzo lines. So you're avoiding the Nimzo immediately, which might even frustrate your opponent, the player of the black pieces, if he's looking forward to playing into a Nimzo Indian, and he suddenly gets faced with this Queen's Indian, knight to f3. He might be thinking, a bit upset there. I wanted to get my Nimzo. I'm not really so sure about what to play against this variation. So it's got a lot of positives, and let's just now, before we move on to any games, just have a very quick run through of move orders and how we're going to get into our systems, what this DVD is going to cover, and what black can play, and what you need to learn to have a full good repertoire. I think this is key, so I think we need to just look at the move orders and have an overview of what this DVD is going to be about, and hopefully it'll win you lots of games. Let's hope so. Okay, so this DVD is concentrating on d4, and now black tends to play knight to f6 here. Now you can also reach the same thing through e6 here. It doesn't matter, but it's more important what we're going to do to white pieces. Let's stick to knight to s6. This is much more common. We are going to be concentrating on the move order of c4 here. Now there are other ways to play this, but c4 is a move I've always played throughout my life, and it's what I'm going to suggest you play. Now, knight to f3 is an interesting way to try to avoid some of the lines in the Queen's Indian, but we're not going to be looking at it in this DVD. The problem is, after knight to f3, e6, we can now play c4, and we transpose back into our normal kind of positions. But if we, instead of playing c4, which we have to play anyway to get to my thing, if we try to play g3 here, which is of course a decent move in a main line, well, if black now insists on playing b6, which is the kind of Nimzo setup, then okay, we can be fairly comfortable here, because bishop g2, and now one of the main moves against our system, which I'll come to very shortly, is a bishop to a6 move. But this just doesn't make any sense here, because white does not have a pawn on c4 to attack. But the issue is, if we go in this move order, g3, we allow black to play a number of possibilities which I've never had in my repertoire, and I'm not going to suggest that you have. For example, black can play d5 here. And now, with the white pieces, I tried to play the move d4 and move 1 in a very aggressive way. It's really super aggressive way, 1 d4, and I have done for my whole life, and it's given me great victories. And obviously I want to teach you things that have worked very well for me as well. I mean, that's the best way to teach, because I understand the ideas. And here, if black goes d5, you are now committed with the white pieces to play a Catalan system. So you have to play d4 lines where you fianchettoed, and that's not something I'm comfortable with. And the other problem is, after g3 here, black can immediately play c5. And in the system we're going to look at, we're always meeting the move c5 with d5. And this is certainly a critical move. I think c5 in this particular move order is a very decent line for black. White can no longer play d5 anymore, so white has to play in a much more passive way than white would wish to play, with some option of allowing black to take on d4. And this, again, I think gives black very good chances to equalise. So this is why we are concentrating on move 2c4, because now, well, the main emphasis of this DVD is going to be on e6. And now, rather than going to Nimzo-Indian positions, which occur after knight to c3, obviously a very popular move, but again, like I mentioned, if black is playing this system with e6 and knight to f6, I think he's mainly going to be paired against the Nimzo-Indian with knight to c3, and he will know these lines extremely well. Now, I think knight to f3 is a brilliant idea here, and a much more aggressive way to play with the white pieces. And this is what this DVD is concentrating on, this start position here. Now, black set up, the Nimzo-Indian setup here with black, the Queen's Indian, whatever you'd like to call it, knight to f6 and e6, is one of the most popular ways that black can play. And it's also one of the most solid, I'd say, ways that black can play against the Queen's pawn. So black is often looking for a solid and reliable game, but we are going to try to shock him with aggressive play to get him out of his comfort zone. And knight to f3 is an excellent way of playing against this system. So what can black play now? So we're just concentrating on move orders. Well, the main move here, and what the DVD is mainly going to be concentrating on, is the move b6, and this is a very trendy and popular system at high level, at every level of chess. And now, what move are we going to recommend for white here? We're going to recommend the most popular and trendiest move, now g3. Now, this is slightly different to the Catalan systems now, because black has committed himself to playing b6. So by playing the move g3, we are trying to take advantage of him playing the move b6. And it was actually Geary who first made a very interesting point about this fianchettoing. And Geary said, like, let's say in some position after bishop b7, bishop g2, some position like this, Geary said in all positions where the side with the fianchetto bishop defended by the king, in this case the bishop I've just highlighted there, this bishop is always going to be stronger than its counterpart, though the bishop on b7. Why is that the case? Geary explained that this bishop on g2 is always going to be stronger because it is defended by the king, so there's going to be more tactical opportunities. So white always has chances to move this knight somewhere, which we will see later on in this DVD, releasing an attack against the bishop on b7. If black ever takes on g2, white can recapture it with the king, but black doesn't have this luxury available to himself. So the idea of meeting b6 with g3 is a very logical and very good idea, in my opinion. It makes the most sense in this position. I mean, of course, there are many other variations white can play here, but this DVD is concentrating on the move g3. So we will start the DVD off shortly with a number of ideas in this. I've got some great novelties lined up, some really exciting ways for you to play. One thing I'm hoping to guarantee, if you follow my system, you will have a lot of fun playing these systems, and surely that's what chess is about. I've checked all these systems with the latest computers, so they are all sound as well. But they're gonna, if you play these systems, you're gonna get attacking positions. You're gonna have a lot of fun. You will basically be trying to rip your opponent apart from an early stage in a very sound positional manner. So this DVD is aimed at you having a fun game, and I have found a lot of new moves here, a lot of new ideas that have never been played in competitive chess. So I think this is going to give you some really good weapons at every level, including the highest levels. Now, just quickly, just after knight to f3, the basic setup of our structure, what else do you need to know? Because I want to try to get you as well prepared as I possibly can. Well, one move we will take a brief look at here is bishop to b4 check. There's a little bit out of the our main Queen's Indian idea. This is the Bogo Indian with bishop to b4 check, but I think we should cover this because a lot of the systems are very similar to when black plays b6 and bishop b7. So this is one move we will indeed cover. Now we're going to only take a very brief look at the moves d5, only in the last game because this is out of our repertoire. Here I recommend you play knight to c3, and there's a number of systems here which you can look up on other DVDs, but this is a little bit out of the Queen's Indian setup. c5 is another possibility which is played, but here, as I mentioned before, we do have a pawn on c4, so you can play the most critical move, and that move is a d5. And again, we'll take a very brief look at some things you should do there. But the main emphasis is on the move and the position after b6, g3. And, well, let's just say, what should white be trying to do? What main fighting areas are both sides aiming to try to, get control of, positionally speaking? Well, the reason black plays b6 is to gain control of the e4 square. And the e4 square is a critical square in this variation. Often white will even play e4 later on, even though he's gone g3. And if white can gain control of the e4 square, black can get a very cramped position. Black is certainly more cramped than white in this structure, so this is a problem black often encounters. Black will often also play bishop b4 check at some stage. We'll look at ways to cover that move and the best ways to cover that move after b6. But this bishop b4 check really enforces black's idea of trying to gain control of the e4 square. Because if white defends with a knight to either c3 or d2, now that the knight will be pinned after a bishop b4 check, that means the e4 square becomes more under black's control. So this is another way that black can play with bishop to b4 check. The problem on the other side of bishop to b4 check from black is that he often has to give up his bishop for the white knight on b1. So white gains the two bishops, which often gives him a very safe and secure advantage. So what else is white trying to do? Well, white often just tries to finish his development, and then he has a very key move in a number of positions, and that move is the move d5. We'll see this come up time and time again. d5 is a key idea. It tries to block the bishop out if the bishop comes to b7. Combined with bishop on g2 can leave very dangerous tricks for white. It tries to gain more space, the move d5, and it really fulfills a number of roles, and it uses the central majority, even potentially to take or go d6 in certain cases. So d5 is a key idea. Black often plays c5. We are always going to aim to meet the move c5 with d5. This is a rule that's well worth remembering, even if you have to sacrifice a pawn. Try to meet the move c5 with a d5. This is one of my key ideas in this DVD. Well worth remembering. But I think for now that's enough of an introduction to this DVD. So one of our main starting positions will be what you see here with g3. We will be covering a lot of other ideas, but I'm going to concentrate on sharp lines, theoretically important lines in this position, but also lines which have a good positional foundation. So once you've learnt this DVD, I think you'll be able to play these variations for a long time to come, hopefully forever. And I will also give you some other options if you don't fancy playing in the most aggressive ways I give here. I'm going to try to structure this DVD by telling you the ideas and the theoretical important moves, so you'll get a combination of, hopefully you'll be able to think in certain positions, what should I be trying to do here, what can I remember, and then I'll explain the theoretically important moves as well. So I hope you enjoyed the DVD. I'm sure it will help you, and I think it's now time to move on to some of the action. So let's move on.